One of the most epic stories in the Bible happens in Genesis chapter 22, and that's when Abraham is asked by God, told by God to go and make a sacrifice, to sacrifice his son Isaac. It's very interesting because up until that point, Abraham and Sarah, his wife, they didn't have any children. She was barren to the extent that she told her husband Abraham to have a kid with her maid servant Hagar. And then they had Ishmael. So after some time, God came over to Abraham and made a promise and told him that you're going to have a kid, and through this child, you're going to have an everlasting king through this child, and the Messiah would eventually come through this one child. And if you look at biblical prophecy, that was relating to Isaac. Through Isaac came Jesus Christ to us Christians. Then in Genesis chapter 22, God told Abraham to sacrifice the son of promise and to offer him as a sacrifice unto God. Now this is crazy because this is the same son in which the Messiah, Jesus Christ, was supposed to come through. And then God is saying, no, sacrifice him. And a lot of people think that Abraham made a mistake. Abraham was an unloving father. How could a father want to execute his own son? But then if we look over at Hebrews chapter 11, the Apostle Paul, who is believed to have written the book of Hebrews, explains well why Abraham went ahead and was willing to sacrifice his son. So firstly, we need to understand the truth of the matter is that God promised Abraham that through Isaac, the Messiah would come, that he would be a father of many nations through Isaac, through his seed Isaac. The world would be blessed. He would be fruitful and multiply and become like the sands of the sea. Sure, that's how many people were coming through Isaac. So Abraham believed this, and the Bible says it was accounted to him as righteousness because he had faith in what God had said. Hebrews chapter 11 verse 17 says that by faith Abraham, when he was tried, offered up Isaac, and he that had received the promises offered up his only begotten son, of whom it was said that in Isaac shall thy seed be called. So Isaac was supposed to be the child of promise. Through him the seed would come. The seed that would be as numerous as the stars of the sun was to come out of Isaac. But then God asked him to sacrifice it. Hebrews 11 verse 19 says that Abraham accounted that God was able to raise him up even from the dead, from whence also he received him in a figure. So that's the question. A lot of people, that's the answer to the question, why was Abraham willing to sacrifice his only son? Because he believed in God's promise. God already told him that, listen, your seed will be raised through Isaac. So in his mind, Abraham, he knew that even if he sacrificed his son and he died, God was still able to raise him up. That's it. That's the whole thing. So it wasn't that Abraham was operating on blind faith or blind belief. He knew his God, and he knew his God had the ability to raise Isaac from the dead. And he knew that God would not rest until what he had promised came to pass. He knew it. He knew that God would make it happen. And that's exactly why Abraham was more than willing to sacrifice his only son. Well, not his only son, but the child of promise.